Mark here from Talkingbass. This week we're going to look at a classic bass line from the song Love Will Tear Us Apart by Joy Division, played by the legendary Peter Hook. This is a great bass line to play for players of any level. It's instantly recognisable, it's super melodic, and it features a great use of open string drones to give that chordal sound. We'll break it down and I'll give you some tips on muting and fingering, so let's get into it. As always, the lesson material is all there over at the Talkingbass website, so just click that link in the description below. Then, while you're there, remember to check out over 500 extra free bass lessons in the lesson map and sign up to the free membership to get access to a ton of free practice resources, ebook downloads, a complete social network, and much, much more. Like I said, it's all free, and there's a great community of over 120,000 other bass players if you want to ask any questions, so go check it out. So for this riff, you're going to want to use a pick, and the main riff sounds like this. So first let's just work through the notes in there. So we begin on an E, 9th fret of the G string, and we're also playing the open D. And that's going to act as a little drone. So, okay, so that's the first note there, and I'm fretting that with the index finger. So, okay, so we've got a few hits on that. Then we work up F sharp, G, so that's 11th fret and 12th fret on the G string, and we're keeping that low D string droning out. So we've played or fretted with the first finger there for the E. Then for the F sharp and G, I'm using the 3rd finger and the 4th finger. Then we come back down, so we've got. Then we shift down with the index finger down to the 7th fret of the G string. So. Next, we keep that first finger held there at the 7th fret of the G string, and we place the 3rd finger, the ring finger, down on the B at the 9th fret of the D string, giving us this nice little minor 3rd there. So we play that for a quarter note and then a bunch of 8th notes. So we've got 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and, okay? And then we drop down to the A, 7th fret of the D string, fretted with the 2nd finger. I'll come to Y in a second. So we've got that A there and the open A string as our drone. Okay, so we just play 8th notes through the bar. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then on the and at the end we jump back up to the D at the 7th fret of the G string with the D drone, okay? And that's why we played that with the 2nd finger, so it's easy to then shift up to the 1st finger on that D, and then leading back up, okay? So. Okay? So again, very, very slowly, round and round, we have. Okay, so first things first, I'm obviously using a pick here and using a Fender Precision. Peter uses a Yamaha BB 1200S, which featured a split coil pickup, like a Precision, but in reverse configuration. So the pickup is switched round with the E and A string side closer to the bridge and the D and G strings closer to the neck. And this is supposed to add a slightly tighter tone to the lower strings and a fatter sound to the upper strings. How much difference it really makes is hard to say, but for this lesson, I'm using a regular old Precision with the traditional split coil pickup placement. Another thing Peter Hook uses a lot is chorus. Now, people often say that Love Will Tear Us Apart features his signature Electro Harmonix clone method pedal, but the isolated bass tracks that you can find on YouTube don't sound particularly chorusy to me. There might be a slight bit there. Live, you can definitely hear it, but on the recording, not so much. Anyway, I'll add chorus just for the whole hooky vibe, but I don't have a clone method pedal, so you'll have to be content with a much cheaper TC Electronic Corona pedal. Now, in terms of technique, I've worked through the fretting hand fingers already, although I have noticed that Peter tends to use more first and second fingers on the G string rather than my third and fourth. So I'm playing, but he just uses the first and second fingers and moves it up. Either way works fine, but I find that using the third and fourth fingers helps with the moving around, so then you can just slide down with that finger. You don't have to be so choppy with the movement, but you know, that's just me. If you want to use two fingers, that's fine. In the picking hand, you can use alternate picking throughout the whole thing, so you just stick to a rigid, you know, alternate picking. And remember, we're playing two strings at all times, so you'll need to be a little looser in the hand than you would for single string picking. And so if I just work through with complete alternate picking, so when I do that, I'm starting with a downstroke, all alternate. And then you'll be on an upstroke when you reach that little third there. So, and then you'll be on another upstroke just on the final note of that, leading into where we'll be on a downstroke when we hit that. And it's always really handy to know when you're going to be upstroking and when you're going to be downstroking, just so you can keep your bearings throughout. You've got little waypoints there, so that, you know, if you end up on a downstroke on one bit, you know you've gone wrong somewhere. Now, on a very easy riff, it might not make any difference whatsoever. And this isn't a particularly hard riff, but you know, when you're dealing with these kind of chords, if you've never played this kind of thing before, it is handy to know when you're going to be on an upstroke and when you're going to be on a downstroke. Now, as well as alternate picking, you can add some downstrokes in there in the latter part of the actual riff. So if I start with alternate picking, for either of those two bars there, whether it's the on the third there, or just on the final bar, that will mimic the sound of it a lot better. I don't know if he is using downstrokes on the original recording, but it does sound like he might be, because when we get to that, it is very aggressive. Alternate picking is going to be more fluid and have a more laid-back kind of sound. But downstrokes, you can hear there how different that is. So if I was to play on that last A part, so with alternate picking, but with all downstrokes, so there's a lot more aggression in it and a lot more conviction. And, you know, maybe he is, maybe he isn't. It's probably easier to play with alternate picking, depending on how experienced you are with the pick. But I personally play it with alternate picking. But if you want to try it with just the downstrokes in those parts, then go for it. Now, as one last important tip, you will need to be wary of residual noise from the unused open strings. So when we're playing with the open D string drone up here, you're going to want to mute the E and the A strings. And when we play the open A drone, there, you're going to want to mute the E string. For muting, I tend to use the heel of the picking hand. So I lightly rest it there against the E string and just rubbing up against the A string there. So when we're playing up on that G string and the D string, we're not having to worry about the ringing out of those unused strings. And then when we drop down to the A there, I've got the heel of that hand there rested against the E string, so you just move it down slightly, and that should pretty much take care of most of that. So you want to start out slowly with this riff, paying special attention to that muting. So you might start out very slow like this. then you can just build up to a faster tempo, more like this. So this bass line is a great example of how you can write a bass line for a tune without having to rely on just playing, straight ahead root notes. I mean, he's using the actual melody of the vocal. He's playing that and then using the open strings to outline the chords underneath. So. Got everything in there. You've got melody, you've got the harmony, it's all in there, and it's a very melodic line. So that's why I say it's very good for beginners to learn, or at least, maybe not absolute beginners, but if you've been playing a little while, it's got a lot in there. It's got a lot of melody, it's very recognizable, it's a great little thing to learn, and obviously you get to practice a few little chords in there as well. Okay, so please like this video, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel, then check out the Talkingbass website for over 500 other free lessons just like this one, as well as the free membership, free downloads, the social network, the courses, and much, much more. Click the link in the description below, and I'll see you next week.